Hi everybody, it's Danny from Board Game Sanctuary. For a long time, I've really been an avid fan of world building and map making. In fact, I keep a little book of some of the really cool map ideas that I've had over time, and I've tried to record them in this world that I like to call Turunga. In this video, I'm going to take a little bit of a journey on a different tangent today, and I'm going to combine two elements of both board gaming and Magic the Gathering together to create a really cool modular, do-it-yourself at home, very easy to make, random map generating system. And basically I'm going to be taking these land magic cards and this laser cut wooden hex tile and join them and merge them together. Disclaimer before I start, I'm no crafting expert, or am I an expert at making anything that I'm about to embark on, so it's going to be exciting to see how it all unfolds. So if you've been following the channel for a long time, you'll know that I'm an avid fan of Magic the Gathering, as well as a huge fan of board gaming. And whenever I make a Magic deck, I often have a lot of these basic land cards with beautiful, gorgeous art left over, and I've always wanted to use this art in some way and try and use it to create my own map making system. Well, I did a little bit of research online and found that there are these really cool laser cut hex tokens that you can buy, and these laser cut hex tokens are pretty cheap. They're about $15 to $20 for about 100, and you can actually punch them out from these boards when they arrive. So you just push them out and they create these beautiful, cool little tile systems. And this size that I got is probably the right fit for the art that regular Magic card has. So I'm not counting full land art, I'm just using the normal basic land cards, and it kind of fits in that space without going out into the borders. So the idea here is to take a little punch out of the art from these land cards and then superimpose them onto these tiles, and then I can put them in this really cool cloth bag, and then I can use them to create my own random maps. So there are a couple of items that you need. You need these wooden hex tiles, you need some land cards, and I often have a whole mass of different land cards with cool different art to choose from. Now, I've tried to group some of the art together so that they're kind of similar, because you could kind of have a map where every art picture is different. So it might look something like this. Or you can kind of have a map generator where you repeat the same art several times and then feature particular locations like this one on a single hex tile that could go in your bag. So you got to think about what sort of landscape do you want to include, what sort of landscape do you want to create. Maybe it's a particular world that you want to foster for your players. Now, one thing I like to do before I start on a little do-it-yourself challenge like this is to lay out all the materials. By laying out all the materials and all the art, you can actually see what goes together and what fits together really well. So kind of like when you're building a new Lego creation, instead of trying to ruffle through the bag to find all the pieces, laying all the pieces out systematically in a way that shows everything helps you to piece together in your brain and visualize what the map is going to look like. For example, I really like this cool little coral cove, so I'm going to put this to the side. Although this art here is a little bit dark for the world I want to create, whereas this one kind of fits and matches in both color and theme. Playing cards here, because there's a nice consistency between them, and I have quite a few of them, not only in the color palette but also what's in the image, these three cards are probably going to go really nicely together in my hex map. Now, the system that we're making now could be used for a D&D campaign where the characters are on a brand new location, they're trying to explore this new world, or it could just be a modular map making activity where you build a map and then use it to create some lore around it. First of all, we take one of the Magic card art that we really like. So it might be this picture here of the castle, and you won't be able to cut out the entire image, so you've got to kind of think of which part of the image do you want to feature predominantly on your tile. Then what you'll need to do is you will need to purchase or get one of these little hex hole punchers, and this hex hole puncher is a little bit smaller than the wooden tile, but when you punch it out, it does leave a nice little wooden border finish which kind of looks really cool when you put all the tiles together. So what you're going to do is you take this and you take your card. You'll have to trim your card so that only the image is visible. This feels really bad that I'm cutting this magic card up. But once you've got it so that just part of the edge is showing, you then slide in your hex cutter so that the part of the picture that you want is completely in that frame of the hex cutter. Once you've got that and you don't have any borders on the edge, you simply clip it together without moving it, and then it pops right out like that, and you get this beautiful framed hex image. And basically what you'll do is you'll get your hex tile that you've pre-ordered, and then you get some craft glue that you'll use to brush on. Ideally, you'll take your image, you'll just position it in place, and because the glue is still wet, what you'll want to do is rotate it a little bit so the glue spreads out all the way around the tile and behind the image, and this glue will dry clear. And just position it so that you get that nice even border on the edge of your tile. You can even just kind of brush away any excess glue. Position it so that it's even on all sides, and your hex cutter would have cut it out quite evenly, and then you leave it to dry. So I like picking art where there's a particular theme that I want to go for the world that I want to create. And because Magic the Gathering has so many cool different art landscapes to choose from, you really are, spoilt for choice as to what sort of environment or terrain you can create for this modular map making system. Now, while those hex tiles I just made are drying, I'm going to show you that you can actually do this for Magic the Gathering tokens too. Here I've cut up a squirrel token, and I can actually do exactly the same thing. And so if I wanted to use these tokens in Magic the Gathering, I can as well. An interesting thing here that you can do is to move the picture around inside the hex cutter until you get it to the point where you're happy with what is shown on frame. Like here, you get to see a lot of the cliff, but you don't see much of the water. So what I want to do here is maybe slide it over a little bit so I get to see a little bit of that background island and also the water and a little bit of that sand. And there you go. You've got that really cool little framing that we just did. Oh, look how cool that contrast is. So good. I realized that I actually am preferring to brush the glue on so it's even. Actually, I found that it then sticks a lot better together when you do it that way. It goes completely on, and you've already got your little piece, and you can just stick it there. You can see how the terrain's going from like swamp with a little bit of forest, plains, and then heading out into the little Alp section. I have this really cool idea. It's kind of based on Settlers of Catan, the Seafarers expansion, where they have ocean tiles. I could generally turn these into ocean tiles by painting them myself or finding some little textures that I could use to kind of create a sense that there's a body of water. So if a player explores into that region, there might be a huge body of water that they'll need to cross. How cool is that? Oh man, I've waited a long time. In fact, to let you in on a little secret, I actually purchased, probably this is my third set of hex tiles, because the measurements that they gave on the hex cutter, they measured the hex cutter from corner to corner, but when they laser cut these tiles, they measure them from edge to edge. So that's something that you probably need to check out before you start ordering them. So I was having a bit of a ponder, and I was thinking about how could I use these hex tile systems in different ways, especially in board gaming. One of the ways that I thought would be really cool is to kind of have all the tiles in the Hessian bag, and then what you would do is you would draw a tile out, place it on the map, and then that's where the characters would explore next, and that might trigger off a certain encounter or particular story element, depending on the game master of the game. There's a whole potential for storytelling, narrative building, as well as character exploration that this little system could offer. I also can see that if you have a second bag with little counters or colored cubes in them, and I went to a hardware store and bought one of these boxes that kind of divides into different sections where I put counters, dice, and cubes, and each of the cubes could be drawn out of a bag, and depending on the color of the cube, they could represent some of the different creatures that players could encounter on the map. For example, this bear could be represented by this green cube that could be placed out onto the map that players will have to fight and negate and defeat. And this cube to represent two characters on this particular tile. And what I might then do is then get players to kind of describe to me what they see, something personal, maybe a memory that they have associated with this particular landscape, and then I'll get them to draw a tile from this bag, and whatever tile they draw, they see and they travel to into the next location. So it might be the Fountain of Youth or the ruins of a particular area that they once visited, and then they might decide, you know what, we'll head over to the mountains, and as they head over to the mountains they might encounter a bear, and so I'll draw this little token out and place this counter here on the little hex tile to signify that this is a creature that they now have to kind of negotiate and negate or battle or try and get around. And what will happen over the game is the map will begin to evolve, and every time you play you're going to get a different combination of tiles, terrains, places to explore, and creatures that you can possibly fight. I found that this is a really fascinating way to use these tiles to create a really cool journey. So in this grotto I've drawn this blue cube, and it's actually going to represent this giant wizard, which is so cool. I'm going to stick it over here. And the yellow cube might represent this human that they meet. And so they might have a conversation, or they might do a little bit of persuasion or test for whatever test that they want to do, like dexterity or perception, and find out what happens on their journey. So another really cool thought that I had in a way that you could use these tiles is probably have like a little token box where you place all these little hex tiles in them, divided based on their land type, so mountain, plains, island, swamp, or forest. And basically what you would do is, depending on the type of world that you want to build, you can decide which of those terrain types and how many of those tiles are going to go in this bag. So if you want to explore like a desert planet, then put more plain tiles and maybe less island tiles, or if it's a water planet, put heaps of island tiles and less plain tiles and mountain tiles. So that way that you can kind of slowly craft a world that your players can explore that's suited to the theme that you want. So another cool way to use these tiles is to kind of have a pre-made map, except have this idea that some of the tiles are going to be face down, so you don't actually know what's in them. I just randomly drew these ones out of the bag and just created my own map. And so as the characters choose to explore a particular direction, they can choose to go this way and then reveal what location they've visited. And if you have kind of like a manual which has particular locations and different story elements, this could be a really fun way of traversing different story paths. And if this character goes down here, it's going to reveal another location, and then it's just going to create this really cool world that I just can't wait to explore. Thank you once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. I hope this little DIY board game component map building video really tantalized the senses, but also gave you some ideas of some do-it-yourself board game homemade components that you use in your own board games. I know I've got Dune Imperium that I probably need to upgrade and get some components for. What are some of your favorite board game do it yourself at home ideas, please share them in the comment section below. I would love to hear them because I know that there are so many great ideas out there. Now that we have 3D printers, you can probably create whatever your mind desires. This video has been an absolute joy to make, and if you really enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. Also, if you really want to check out some behind the scenes photos, then head over to my Patreon page and consider joining up. Before I go, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Shaun, one of my best friends who did get me along this track and was the inspiration for this very video. So thanks, Shaun. This is Danny signing out. I can't wait to see you in the near future. Goodbye.